Hey magical sparks, welcome back to my channel. It's Sparkle here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys 15 ways to make your sketchbook more aesthetic while also improving your art at the same time. I'm also going to be creating the most aesthetic sketchbook spread I've filled in my entire life at the same time. But just a quick disclaimer, these are just tips that have helped me, but in no way does that mean anyone's sketchbook is less amazing, because everyone can be themselves and use their sketchbook however they want to. Anyway, so time for tip number 1, which is composition and framing. So composition and framing both refer to pretty much the same thing in my opinion, and it's pretty much how you position things on your page. Now this is such an important thing, and the second you start focusing on the composition and framing of your page, you can make your entire sketchbook look so much better, trust me. And now all you have to do is focus on the way you're distributing the visual weight. So you can either make your piece balanced with a main character in the middle of the page, or you can go ahead and draw a bunch of random characters floating around with different things in the background. But either way, just make sure the visual weight is distributed in an intentional way. Now this doesn't mean you have to pre-plan everything. You can just kind of go with the flow, but just make sure that you think about how you're positioning things and how that's going to make the final page and or spread look. And with that, tip number 2 is to annotate and reflect. Now everyone's different, and okay, generally speaking, writing down notes, annotating and reflecting on your pieces, reflecting on your color choices, your composition choices, what you liked, what you didn't like, those are all great ways to improve. And physically going ahead and grabbing a pen and writing down your notes in your sketchbook is a great way to add that extra variety to your page, and it just helps you to show your thought process. But for me personally, I just don't like to write that much in my sketchbook. I kind of like to keep my personal reflections to myself, and you know what, that's completely okay. So what I would say is, if you want to improve, then definitely go ahead and annotate and reflect on each work, the strengths, the weaknesses, what you liked and what you can improve on and stuff. But if you want to make your sketchbook more aesthetic, then go ahead and annotate physically, because it will definitely help add that extra variety to each page and each spread. And now the next tip is to pick your color palettes really wisely. Now color palettes play such a humongous role in making your sketchbook look more aesthetic, in the sense that they give each page kind of like its own individual theme, and it's so important that you pick a good color palette. And for me personally, I found that whenever I stick to one color palette per page or per spread, it really just helps me to make that page or spread kind of cohesive and harmonious and kind of unified. But you know what, you can also go ahead and do different color palettes for different characters. But in the end, my point is, be very conscious about how you pick color palettes, and be very conscious of how that's going to make the final page look, because trust me, color palettes can change the entire vibe of a page and a sketchbook. And now the next tip is contrast. So make sure there is always some form of contrast. Now contrast is that kind of thing that builds on color palettes, but also connects to the idea of shading, values and tones. It's really important to have contrast, and by that I mean just having some kind of obvious way to tell apart different drawings and different features of different drawings. And for example, in this specific page, I decided to add contrast by using different colors for different characters. That's one way you can go about it, or you can add contrast through shading. There's lots of ways to add contrast, but it really just helps to separate those different elements and different drawings from each other, and overall just make the page look a bit more busy and full and lively. And one of my personal favorite things to do is, when I have a page with a bunch of drawings, but I like one specific drawing, I go ahead and add like a background behind it just to bring attention to my favorite drawing by using contrast. And now tip number 5 is themes and inspiration. So for this tip, all you have to do is make sure that for each page or for each spread, you have one specific theme or thing that's kind of inspiring you. For me, for example, for this specific spread, the thing that inspired me was the color palette that I chose from the sticky notes. So I chose pink, yellow and green sticky notes, and because of that, this entire spread was inspired by that color palette. So when I was designing the characters, I was thinking about the color palette and how I could incorporate it. That's why I gave this character kind of like a leafy nature vibe ball gown in a way. But hey, that's just me. Or some other themes you could pick are things like, for example, a floral theme or a medieval theme or things like that. Anyways, tip number 6 is to make sure there is a variety in your sketchbook. Now this is something that I usually forget to do, because sometimes it's hard to make sure you have a variety of different things in your sketchbook, especially when you're like running out of time and you just want to draw that thing that you're familiar with drawing. Just draw that thing in your comfort zone. But trust me, Adding a variety to your sketchbook, it just makes your sketchbook look so much more aesthetic, and it will help you to experiment and step out of your comfort zone at the same time, and hence improve your art. Now you can go super duper crazy and add a variety by gluing in a bunch of random things in your sketchbook, or using a bunch of random mediums together, or you can just take it easy and add a variety by just mixing up the designs, trying out different layouts, and drawing things that you wouldn't normally draw otherwise. And this actually flows quite well into tip 7, which is to add 3D elements to your sketchbook. Now, once again, this technically does add variety, but it also just adds texture, which is something that's so much fun to look at and to touch and to play with when you're flipping through your sketchbook. So you can add 3D things such as sticky notes, because, well, that's technically a 3D edition. Or you can go ahead and add other things like, I don't know, like yarn, or like a leaf that you found when you went to the park, or some kind of like, I don't know, different kind of things. Just add in a bunch of different things, add in 3D elements, and that way, not only will you be able to add texture to your sketchbook, but at the same time, you can also just kind of add memories into your sketchbook of physical items that you've touched before, and you know, it's just really nice to think about it. Anyways, tip number 8 is space. And yes, you heard me, I said space. But no, I do not mean the intergalactic, universal outer space. I mean making use of the space that you have on each page or each spread. Now, depending on whether you're using one specific page for your illustrations or an entire spread, or whether you're keeping the 2 pages separate, just work with what you got. And sometimes it's really important to leave out blank space just to create that sense of contrast. But at the same time, it's also really helpful to add backgrounds and just extra pops of color just to kind of tie your illustration together. So I can't really tell you guys exactly what to do, but what I would say is just practice making use of space and making sure that whatever you do makes the entire appeal of your page just look a bit more better. But whether you want to leave space or take up space is your choice. Anyways, time for tip number 9, which is chaos. And yes, you heard me right. I said chaos. Now, chaos in the sense that making sure that you draw something, knowing that you can't really undo it, really just helps you to focus on different ways you can improve. So let me explain. For example, how I like to go about making my sketchbook a bit more chaotic and aesthetic at the same time is by either using a ballpoint pen when I'm sketching, or using a pencil but telling myself I can't use an eraser. This way, firstly, I get to improve because I get to be a bit more focused and intentional with the lines I place, but at the same time, I get to make my sketchbook look a bit more aesthetic because, hey, sometimes people think aesthetic sketchbooks are super duper neat and pretty, but in reality, messy sketchbooks are the aesthetic ones, and this chaos will allow you to be messy and free. And with that, the next tip is to study. And yes, I said study, but I don't mean grab a textbook and write down notes in your sketchbook. I mean, unless you want to. But the type of studying I mean is to go ahead and look at a reference and practice drawing the things that you're not that confident with drawing yet. So for example, this could be things like eyes or posture or anatomy or things like that, or hands or whatever. Just go ahead, dedicate an entire page or an entire spread to studying that one specific thing. And don't worry about how messy the final thing might look, because in the end, because you're studying, you get to learn and you get to fill up an entire page with the valuable drawings. So what more could you want? Also, like I said, chaos is quite aesthetic when it comes to sketchbooks. Anyways, tip number 11 is to experiment. Experiment. I need to do this as well. And the thing is, sometimes we get so used to drawing things in our comfort zone that we forget to experiment and jump out of the box and try new things. And we just get so caught up in doing the things that we already know how to do. But if we don't experiment, then how do we learn? So I would say experiment with new techniques and styles and ideas. Like me here, I was experimenting for this entire spread. I mean, guys, when was the last time you saw me do anything like this? Firstly, I'm coloring an entire spread. Secondly, none of these drawings are pre-planned. They were all just kind of in the moment kind of drawings. And thirdly, I haven't done the line art yet. Have you noticed that? So yeah, experiment. That's my point. I'm doing it right now, and if I can do it, then so can you. All right, we're almost at the end. So tip number 12 is to use your sketchbook like a journal. So we're all going through our own individual art journeys, obviously. And what better way to keep track of our art journeys than to use our sketchbook like a journal? Now again, you can either go ahead and write stuff in your sketchbook and use it like a journal in that way to track your progress, or you can just go ahead and keep drawing whatever you like and just treat your sketchbook like a journal. Don't treat it like this kind of mini museum where each page has to be a masterpiece. The first page needs to be a Mona Lisa, the next page has to be the Starry Night, then the other one has to be like an impressionist style Claude Monet kind of thing. Don't think of it like that. Just think of it like it is a journal, and you can draw whatever you want to draw. You can make it look however you want it to look, and trust me, whatever you create will be amazing. And tip number 13 to improve your art and make your sketchbook look more aesthetic is to continue showing your thought process by doing thumbnail sketches. Now, thumbnail sketches are really just a great way to improve your skills in terms of planning the composition and framing of your work and how all the elements will be unified. And also, it just takes the pressure off creating that one finished perfect work. Now, thumbnail sketches is something that I used to do a lot in one of my older sketchbooks, because there was a time where I never really made any finished drawings in my sketchbook. My sketchbook would kind of just be like this place where I would draft ideas, and then I would take my ideas to like a proper piece of paper and finish it over there. You can either do it like that, or you can have a mix of both, but either way, thumbnail sketches are a great place to start. And now we're almost at the end. Number 14 is to do timed drawing. Now, timed drawing, okay, it might seem stressing, but trust me, once you do it, it's not that bad. And I'm not going to say do like a 10-second challenge, because trust me, I've been there, I've done that, and it's not fun at all. Don't watch my latest video where I did that, by the way, because it was kind of chaotic, unless you want to watch the chaos. Anyways, my point is, go ahead and give yourself like 10 minutes to draw. 10 minutes or 5 minutes, make it as long as you want, but I'd recommend having it more shorter. This way you can maximize your productivity and just put off that procrastination. And once you're done with the sketch, if you don't like it, don't rip it out, leave it there, but next to it write 10-minute sketch or 5-minute sketch, so that when you look back through your sketchbook, you can remember that this was a rushed drawing that you did. But I just like doing this because that way you won't procrastinate from drawing and spending time in your sketchbook, because for me personally, daily sketchbook time is very, very important. Or, you know, if it's not daily, at least as frequently as it can get. Voiceovers are always fun, but for some reason I feel like I'm losing my voice right now. Anyways, tip number 15 is to be yourself. Now, it's really, really easy to fall into the trap of looking at these, and I quote in air quotation, aesthetic sketchbooks online, and then just kind of losing track of what's important. It's really easy to fall into this trap of feeling like you have to draw in a specific way to make your sketchbook look aesthetic, or color in a specific way, or do stuff in a specific way, when that's not really true. Honestly, anything you do will look amazing as long as you love what you're doing. And even the messiest sketchbook pages, I would still call them aesthetic, because if you are loving the process as you create, there is nothing, and I mean nothing, in the world that is more important than that. So in the end, just be yourself and find a way to fall in love with the process, and use your sketchbook as a way to show your identity to the world, or at least to your future self, and just, you know, follow your heart. I know this might sound a bit like, oh my gosh, a bit dramatic, but some people really just kind of break down under the pressure of wanting to have this perfect sketchbook, that they just kind of feel this need to just quit art and give up. I just don't want you guys to do that. I want you guys to keep on drawing and keep on creating and bringing more love to this world. So I guess what I'm just trying to say is, guys, be yourself, and please don't ever feel like you're not good enough, or that you have to be exactly like someone else, because trust me, in my opinion, each and every single one of you guys are beautiful and amazing and super duper talented. So just believe in yourself and use your sketchbook to show them who you really are. Oof, and there we go. There are my 15 tips to help you guys make your sketchbook more aesthetic while also improving your art at the same time. Okay, in case it wasn't already obvious, I'll say it out loud. I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect artist, and neither is my sketchbook, and that's okay. But you know what? I'm going to be using these tips to help me gradually improve my art and improve my sketchbook, while allowing me to have fun along the way. And I think that you guys will get to see me improve, hopefully, throughout this year, because like with this sketchbook page, I can already see a lot of improvement. Correction, sketchbook spread. And I'm not gonna lie, I honestly love how the spread turned out, because it was so loose and crazy, and I honestly didn't think it would turn out, but I just kind of stuck with it. it, and in the end I loved it so much that I decided to post a really quick sneak peek on my community post today. And thank you to these 2 people who commented so fast. Anyways, I do love how the sketchbook spread turned out. It was very loose and crazy. I didn't think it would turn out, but hey, here we are. It looks pretty good. And it's just a bunch of random things scattered all together on this spread. It's so chaotic, but I love it. It's so colorful, but it's got this kind of specific color palette. Overall, it's been a dream to draw this sketchbook spread, and I hope you guys like it as much as I do. Also, I hope that my 4-leaf clover grants you luck for today. Anyways, guys, that is it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it might have helped you. Anyways, I'll see you guys in my next video. Have a fabulous day. Stay awesome as always. And yeah, see you, magical sparks. Bye!